Welcome to the She Can't Quit podcast. I'm Britt Jensen, a business and marketing strategist, multi-passionate entrepreneur, and a mom of 3. I fell into the entrepreneur world by chance, and from that day on, I never looked back. Nearly a decade later, 2 businesses, and a lot of life in between, I found a love for sharing my journey, and I've made it a mission to share about the life of raising businesses and babies, from the messy moments behind the scenes to the magic happening in between. Grab a cup of coffee or a glass of wine while we chat all things marketing, business, and motherhood. Because you know that vision you have is something you just can't quit. Hey there, I'm Britt, and welcome back to another episode of the She Can't Quit podcast. I'm so excited you're here today. And today we're going to cover how to get it all done and avoid the overwhelm. And I know if you're a mom and an entrepreneur, you're sitting here going, oh my gosh, thank goodness. And I'm going to show you some of the tips that have really worked for me. Obviously, running multiple different businesses, and I always say raising businesses and babies, it is not for the faint of heart. But first, if you haven't subscribed on the YouTube channel or the podcast, please do and click the notification bell so that you can get notified every time there is a new episode. I love being able to share this with you guys, and I'm so grateful that you're here. Okay, let's dive in. The first tip that I want to share with you guys is block planning, and that will seriously change your life. I seriously just do it on, you can do this on paper or digitally. I do this on Google Calendar, and I will literally block out the same kind of tasks that take the same kind of wavelength, brain power. As a mom, you know that you have to be very cautious of that and conserve it where you need it. So usually I will break things out. And so in the beginning, I usually do some kind of morning routine. I kind of set my day right. And I try to do this when my kids aren't up yet, especially before dropping them off for school. But I will do this and read, sometimes, most days I'm pulling a card, I'm journaling. That's been my newest thing I've added to my routine lately, and I've been loving it. And reading my business, I usually have a business book and a personal development book that I go and I sit through and I take just a little bit. So that's kind of like my first plan. And then I will go through and structure my day and the next block. And I mean, this doesn't have to be down to the T. This is like breaking it down so that it is morning block, afternoon block, evening block, whatever you want it to be. I am a little bit more type A, so I kind of have mine all flowing, and it helps me kind of go and get ready to transition into the next one, because otherwise I will get stuck in a task or I will get distracted doing something that's maybe not high priority. So that's why I really love block planning. The next one I'll kind of do, and I'll just walk through and kind of give you an example of my day. I usually will get my workout in, shower, eat, and by that time I'm usually listening to some podcast. Sometimes I'll keep notes of things that I want to get done in between there. And then the next one, I'll go into my work block. And during my work block, I'm listing out on there, and I do give myself 5 minutes of transition time. So it'll notify me on my phone or my watch, and it'll say, this is coming up in 5 minutes. So I know to wrap up whatever task I'm doing there. And if I haven't finished, I will move it to the next day, or to another block if it's like super important, which I've pretty much narrowed it down to what works. And this does take some trial and error. That's okay. I'll move into my next block. And so in my work block, I'll get my highest priorities done, and I will list it on in there. I'll also do the same time too. And especially as a mom, if you are kind of like me and maybe you're at Enneagram 3, I have a very hard time shutting off with work. I love work. I love what I do. I love my clients, but I've had to be very good with creating boundaries, especially with being a mom. So I wrap up what I need to get done. And then as soon as I will make myself like clock out of the office, wrap up my stuff, and then I go and I transition into mom mode, and literally will envision putting, mom mode hat on, because it's very hard for me not to do that. So sometimes that's creating physical boundaries, leaving your phone upstairs charging, or whatever it is. But block planning will really kind of help create a flow throughout the day. And I also do like an evening routine once, and I will start getting dinner ready. We'll be doing our homework routine, kind of transition to bedtime, the couple of chores that I want to focus on that time. Maybe it's like, mopping really quickly that day, whatever it is. And then after that, I will usually do an evening block. Sometimes, especially being a creative, I will need to get that done, or especially during big seasons, busy seasons, I will do that after bedtime. So I'll plan another work block, and then I know which blocks that I need to put my work into. If it's more client work, it's usually up in the big one so that I can get it sent off, or whatever it is. And usually at night during my evening or my nighttime work block, it's usually something more creative. It's what I'm working on here. Maybe it's mapping out episodes or creating content, stuff like that. And sometimes I'll do a lot of block designing then too, because it's using kind of the same muscle. So that is block planning. Seriously, you can do it on paper. You can do it in your planner and just highlight it, or colored markers, make it fun, or just do it on there. So long story short, keep it simple. Group the same kind of tasks in one block. And like I said, it doesn't have to be down to the minute. Give yourself a 5-minute transition between each to wrap up a task and kind of get your mind to be able to get ready to transition. So whatever takes the same kind of energy, you're going to put those together. And through here too, get really clear with what your priorities are and what needs to get done, and anything else is extra. So if you're like me and you love a good check mark on the list, make sure you're really, really, really clear with yourself of what a priority is and what needs to get done that day, or what could wait till later. And anything else after that is just a bonus. So gold star. Okay, the second tip that I'm going to say is work in productivity pockets. And not only this is going to work great with block planning, but set a timer to get a certain amount of tasks done, or a certain kind of task done. Maybe that is clearing out your inboxes and responding to those. Set a timer for 15 minutes, get it done. And if you didn't get it all done, do it again later that day, or, put it back on your to-do list. Check it off if you want to, because those are always fun, but do it again later. And then set a timer for the next thing. Keep it so that you're really heightening that productivity and kind of, make it a game, make it fun. The same thing too, I will also group activities together that make one more enjoyable than the other. So sometimes I am returning messages, or sometimes I'm actually writing content while I'm just taking an easy walk on the treadmill. I'm getting moving and writing out some thoughts or some notes or whatever that is. Sometimes it's even, I love listening to podcasts, and I will listen to my favorite podcast while I'm driving to go pick up the kiddos from school or drop off. And it lets me be able to check that off, because I'm always trying to learn and, keep up in the industry and whatnot, and be able to provide my clients the best that I can. So sometimes working in productivity pockets, and obviously as a mom, you got to keep that boundary of what works. But, sometimes that's working in nap time and making that time really, really work for you. Okay. My third tip is going to be schedule joy tasks. And this is something that can be a definition of whatever works for you. One of the things I love doing, especially when I have a later work block, especially when it's a busy season, is I love to put on some of my favorite Netflix shows. I will set it up. I will get myself a good drink. Sometimes it's a glass of wine. Sometimes it's tea. Sometimes I'm catching up on my water from the day because I'm behind. But I make it, I get into my cozies. I will do a face mask sometimes, but sometimes I will schedule in those joy tasks, and I will do it and make it fun while I'm designing some content, or just making it enjoyable. Sometimes it's just unplugging and taking a break. One of the things I absolutely love doing that has changed my mental health and anxiety so much over the last, I think, 2 years. I was looking at this the other day on all the wrapped stuff, and it's reading my Kindle. I love, love, love reading my Kindle. And that's how I shut my brain off at night. I also take breaks during the day, and these are complete fiction books. These are things that will completely jolt me out of being in work mode, to just take a break and reset, because sometimes I notice myself spinning. If you are ever sitting there and you're like, I'm getting nothing done, I'm just staring at the screen, or just feeling frustrated on getting a task done, take a break and go, this is where you have a joy task, and make sure you schedule one or a few more every day. Maybe it's taking a break and doing your nails. Maybe it's taking a break and going and taking a nap. Whatever that is that kind of makes you feel a little bit better, schedule them in. You're allowed to have them. You should have them. They make you work more efficiently and better. So schedule those joy tasks. The next tip I'm going to give you is getting moving every day. And if you follow me on Instagram, you'll see that says movement is magic. Always. I feel like everything obviously in the world is energy. And so I always notice when I start getting more anxious, or I'm having a really hard time with content, I will go walk on the treadmill. I'll go do an inclined walk on there, and just getting that not only are in a good endorphins rush is so great for you, but it's just kind of breaking up that stale, stagnant energy and getting rid of what's not serving you. Sometimes it's just getting stuck in a negative thought cycle and just letting it go, breaking up and letting it go. So making sure that you get 30 minutes of movement every day, I swear it makes such a difference. If you are feeling stagnant in some way, or just starting your day that way, if you are really wanting to try to get it all done, getting 30 minutes of movement in some way, shape, or form, whether it's going for a walk, whether it's doing yoga, whether it's literally just stretching, will make a huge difference on getting your to-do list done. I promise you it will make you so much more productive. All right, and the last tip, and this is, I think, probably the most important, especially for you mamas out there, is to give yourself grace. There are going to be days where nothing gets checked off, or one thing gets checked off, and there are going to be some days where you check all the things off and then some, and that's okay. You're going to have a mix of stuff. And this has actually been something that I've been struggling with a lot, but especially as a mom and a business owner and entrepreneur, sometimes our days do not look the same. So the other day, I literally was taken down by a migraine, and I was thinking, wow, I haven't had a migraine in a while. Sure enough, the next day it did happen. That's how it always goes. But I feel so guilty taking time off or just kind of letting myself rest. So I took the morning off. I took a nap to get rid of it, but I felt so guilty. But then I had to have this conversation with myself. I'm like, Britt, you worked too damn hard on this dream, on this vision, to give yourself the freedom to move around your schedule. And you fought too freaking hard for it, like to keep doing it. I fought too hard for it not to be able to enjoy the rewards of that, because my day running businesses and raising babies is not a 9 to 5, and it doesn't fit in that. That's why some Saturday mornings I'm working. That's why after bedtime I'm working. That's why sometimes I'm doing 3 things at once, but there's such beauty in it. And I worked too dang hard to do that. So if you are beating yourself up because you see other people doing it better, and if you're watching or if you're listening on the podcast, I'm air quoting doing it better, you're going to see a lot of things, and there's going to be a highlight reel, but you're always going to be comparing yourself. But the only person that you should be comparing yourself to is who you were yesterday, who you were last season. Just keep growing, keep getting better. 1% better makes a huge difference, and focus on those systems that you're creating. The goal is super important, but the systems that you create behind them are 10 times more important, because they're going to get you to that goal and they're going to make it count. So if you are beating yourself up because things don't look like how you wanted to, or you didn't get everything done, give yourself grace. I promise it still counts. It's just as fulfilling. So don't ruin that magic for you. Those are my 5 tips. I'm going to go over it again. Block planning, work and productivity pockets, schedule joy tasks, get moving, and give yourself grace. I hope that these few tips help for you. If you've tried any of them, or if you have any tips, please leave them below. If you're watching on YouTube, in the comments below, please make sure to subscribe. I love being able to chat with you. And please, 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 if you guys listen to this podcast, please share and tag me over at the Britt Jensen. I would love to hear from you. If you have any episodes that you would love for me to create around any specific questions, leave them below or send me a DM on Instagram. I would love to hear them. I am so excited and so grateful that you guys are here, and I cannot wait to continue creating on these channels. I hope you know that I am always cheering you on, and I will see you next time.